And we're live, beaming directly and live from Sydney, Australia, and California in the United States. Today, we've been waiting to have Goldyn Duffy on this program, and we've finally got her on the show. Goldyn, welcome to the Awakening Point LiveCast. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so good. It is a total pleasure and a blessing to be here. So thank you for having me, Michael. It's amazing.
Look, we've just been catching up like before we went live, and oh man, I am so excited to be having this conversation with you today. Your energy is absolutely incredible, and what a treat for our viewers. So Goldyn, today we're going to explore conscious creating.
Yeah, it's a very exciting topic. And, you know, what I found in studying this material, I've been studying like quantum physics, law of attraction, universal law. I've been studying that for about 8 years. And when I first started studying it, I definitely felt like there were missing pieces. And I think that that's the case for a lot of people out there, is that they think they know how to create, but then things don't work out, right? Things don't manifest. So then they think, well, I must not be a good creator. And the reality is that you just don't have the right formula. You don't have the exact realizations that you need to have to create everything that you want. Most people will think about something and want something and crave something, but they'll do it from a mentality and a vibrational energy that's reaped in lack, right? Like we think about what we want and we're just sad that we don't have it. You know, we look at these beautiful homes and these beautiful cars and we just feel that emptiness inside of us. Like, I want that so bad. When you do that, you're not actually lining up with the energy of what that car or what that house represents, or whatever it is that you want to do, travel or, you know, create a successful business. You're not lining up with the vibrational energy of it because you're in the lack of it. And that is probably the biggest component that I see that most people do. So there's a disconnect in that. And I want to help people to understand how to bridge that gap.
So you're saying that like they're stuck in a mentality of lack, and they're actually creating that reality for themselves.
Oh, sure. Because the belief systems underneath it are, I don't have it and I can't get it, right? That's what creates the energy. When we have a thought, and especially when we have a feelings, desires are what actually pulls energy through the universe. And when we have that thought and that desire, and we continue to believe in it and have faith in it and work towards it, what we do is we actually create circumstance, we create experience, we create opportunity. But when we take that thought and we get sad about it, or we feel like a failure in it, then we actually like kind of suck that wave back in. We suck the energy back in, and it doesn't turn into creation. Does that make sense? Like, sure. If you could imagine that every thought, not every thought, but every feeling that we have, because feeling and mood is actually what drives energy. That's what creates vibrational energy. It sets up our frequency in the world. If you could imagine that all your feelings go out as a wave into the world, and as you continue to have that desire and that belief and that connection, it then breaks down into particles and becomes experience. But most of us suck it back in because we self-sabotage, or it's like we don't see it fast enough. It's like we want everything to be so immediate. And once you get really good at this, it can be quite immediate. You know, where you think of someone and the next thing you know, they're right in front of you, or they call you. It can be, especially in the beginning of your journey, the energy will start to move really fast. But in the long term, it's like it's all universal timing. So if I am calm and centered and happy and excited about what I believe is going to happen, then it will drive that wave to break down into experience. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of deep.
Yeah, let's break this down a little bit for the audience. So yeah. Let's go right to the beginning. Yep. Let's go right to the start, and let's break this down. So what you're saying is that somebody has a thought, say they start to feel happy, and then that becomes like an emotional state. So it goes from a thought to like an emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And then from there,
Yep.
Where does it go from there?
Well, as you connect with that happiness and with that joy and with that belief that actually what you want is going to be created, then what you're doing is you're setting up vibrational resonance with it, right? Like you're resonating with whatever it is that you want to create. A good example of this is we are actually from the East Coast, which is across the country of the US. So it's like 3,000 miles away from where we live now. And a few years ago, we had, a desire to move to California. Now, California is beautiful. It's amazing. It's a very high vibrational state, especially where we live, because it's just gorgeous and the weather is amazing. So I realized it took me 4 years to figure out how to line up with California. But what I realized was being sad about being in Connecticut was not resonating me with California. So what I ended up doing is I took a trip out here. I'd only been here for 1 day, and realized what the vibrational level of this area that I needed to be at in order to resonate with it, to create the circumstances and experiences to make this come true. Being sad in Connecticut and being upset that I was in another terrible winter was not the way to do it. So I took that winter and I meditated and I wrote and I loved my life as much as I possibly could and appreciated where I was as much as I possibly could. And then from the time that my husband and I decided we were going to move, it was February. We ended up moving in June, and we saved like $30,000 we had never saved money in our lives. And we set a very, very strong intention and decided that, this was it and we were going to do it, and just sold everything we owned and we made it. And it was the best thing we've ever done. But it was about resonating with what it means to live here. What it is that you want to create. If you want to become someone, if you want to become something, a successful business owner, well, how does a successful business owner act? Do they get, ticked off when they get their gas bill or their electric bill? Or, do they get upset when they get a bill in the mail that was unexpected? No, like a successful business owner lives in abundance. So those things are not going to bother them. So it's always questioning like how whatever that persona is that you want to become, it's how would that person behave, or how would I behave if I was a millionaire, or if I was super successful?
So in a sense, what you're saying here is that a person's experience, by them experiencing this, it kind of like starts the process and makes it real for them, makes it their truth.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
And you were touching on setting intent, just in that period there where you were talking, you were saying that yourself and your husband set a strong intent. What do you mean by that?
We bought plane tickets to California. Wow. We decided that we were just going to fly out here and, ship our car out. I mean, we literally just decided, we decided how much money we needed to move. And what happened was we were actually, not a lot of people know this, but I like to share this story because I think it's important. Our house was being foreclosed on, and it had been 5 years in foreclosure. And talk about manifesting paperwork getting lost and things not happening that you don't want to happen. I had set a very clear intention in that process that the house would never be taken from me, that I would give it back, because it was like, to live in fear for 5 years of my house being taken away from me felt awful. So I just set a very clear intention that I would give the house back. And I knew in my heart of hearts that I would never be homeless, and that it was like, this was part of my journey, and it was going to be part of my story to share with people, because there's so much shame around foreclosure and bankruptcy, and God, we've been through it all. The economy in 2008 just wiped out my husband's business. And, we did the best we could, but we got stuck in it for a little while. And then when we learned about this information, this universal law, that's when our entire lives changed. So we had gotten a notice from the bank that said that they were going to foreclose in an undetermined amount of time. And we made a decision at that point that the bank would not determine our fate. And we said, why are we waiting for the bank to come and take the house when we don't want this house anyway, and we do not want to live here anymore? So that's when we had a really strong discussion and decided that the reason why we weren't living in California is because we'd not set a plan. We didn't have a plan in place. We didn't set strong intention. And because of that, the energy wasn't strong enough to manifest anything. So once we decided that we wanted to have $30,000 to leave with, it was a lofty goal. We ended up with 20,000, which was enough to move. We had some struggles along the way for sure, because 20,000 doesn't go far when you're rebuilding a home and, rebuilding all of we didn't take any furniture with us, not even, no beds, nothing. So we had to buy everything. So once we decided that, that decision that makes energy move, that creates from the universe, that actually has the universe meet you halfway, was what it really took. And most people are afraid to do that. Most people are afraid to leap off the cliff or to, burn the boat. And that's what we were doing. We were burning the boats, and we were just moving forward with, not a huge plan. My husband did not have a job out here, and neither did I. I was doing some coaching in Connecticut that actually really took off when I moved to California. And it was most of my clients were still from there, but I started to get into energy work, and I feel like a very interesting channel opened up within me when I moved to California, where I can do energy release work and I can really make a difference for people. But when we moved here, it was really interesting because people showed up and jobs showed up. And then my husband started his own business, and now he's doing giant remodels that was his dream to do here that we used to do in Connecticut. So the universe will meet you halfway. It will. You just have to sometimes take that giant step that feels so scary. We worked through so much fear. But what we saw in it and what we proved in it through this whole thing was that we are always taken care of. We are always supported, and we're always, just everything always works out. And that's been our mantra for years. Everything always works out for us.
What I'm loving about this conversation already, Goldyn, we're about 10 minutes into this interview, and you're already giving off this beautiful, wonderful energy. You're speaking about your experience with outer hustle and inner hustle. You're talking about money. You're talking about business. You're talking about spiritual depth, walking your path, being honest with yourself. You're sharing with us a very, very difficult time that you went through so openly and honestly. I'm absolutely riveted. I'm loving this.
Good. I know I said I was going to talk about myself, and here I am. But this is, I guess this is the, it's the path. And when you can show people that there's a light at the end of that tunnel, then it kind of gives them the faith to take the step and the leap.
How did you come to the decision, the very first step? You were at the old place. Mm-hmm. Things are really starting to get really bad, but mm-hmm. somehow you understand inside you that you've got to create the situation to get better. How did you come to that realization and actually make that first decision to push things along into that direction to where you are now?
Right. Well, it's such a process. It was really such a process. We were actually working with an energy healer from Germany. My husband did not want to move necessarily west. We originally had thought maybe we were going to move to Vegas because we had a lot of friends there, and then we visited Vegas and we didn't really like it. So it took me being completely, and he will agree with me on this, it took me being so focused on what I wanted and not being so worried that he didn't want the same thing. And in a relationship, with a spouse or a partner, that's really challenging to do because we always want to bring people over to our side and we want to feel like we're on the same team. It took me a good 1.5 to 2 years of just having faith that this was where I belonged, that created the circumstances for my husband to come along and then eventually be totally on the same page. He will say that he will say we chased my dream for sure. But he's so glad we did.
So he wasn't aware at this stage. You didn't even make him aware. You were working through this yourself inside you. Okay.
I would say things, I would make comments, but I never. did it to the point where we were fighting about it, because that will just do the opposite of the energy. That will break the energy apart if you're on opposite ends and you're trying to convince somebody else to do it. If you want somebody to do, this is one of my secrets, if you want somebody to do something, just focus on what you want and don't worry about them. Eventually they're going to come along to the energy, because the person with the strongest focus, the person who has the most focus on what they desire and what they want, will create that, no matter what the other person's doing. It's really, really interesting. And one of the secrets to my marriage.
That's a good one.
I'm
sure there's a lot of people listening.
I used to say, I always get what I want. My husband's like, I don't really like that. I'm like, eventually it's what you want to, so don't worry about it. But I guess what the process that we went through was a lot of visualization. I did a ton of visualization. There's a abundance meditation by Bob Proctor on YouTube, and it has the waves in the background. And I would listen to that meditation once or twice a day and picture myself in California. And I would literally feel, if I was laying out in the sun by my pool in Connecticut, I would feel the sun of California on my skin. Like I got to a point where I didn't feel like I was even living in Connecticut anymore. And that was really interesting, because I would be in the grocery store and even people who knew me wouldn't see me. I felt like I wasn't there anymore. It was so like I was transferring my energy to California, and it just kind of pulled me along. So your question, what was your question again? I want to make sure I answered it.
So the very first decision, like how you got to make that actual the decision to start the ball rolling to move to California. You mentioned that it was about a 2-year process inside you.
Yep. So the year before we moved, I connected with a guy that I knew from California on Facebook, and he had told me, I saw him at an event, and he said, if you ever want to come out to Orange County, let me know and I'll show you around. So I started talking to him, and we started having phone conversations, and he said, and this was interesting, I won the lottery. So we were playing the lottery, like really hardcore, totally focused on it. We're going to win. And I won $1,000 in the lottery, or $940. And all of a sudden I realized that we had enough money to go visit California. And the guy said to me, that was my friend from there, he said, you have to come here. You have to see what it's like. You have to feel the energy and decide where you want to live. And I was like, you're right. How can I do that I have no idea what it's even like there. I don't even know why I want to go there. I just know I do, right? So we planned an 8-day trip, and just the two of us, and we visited so many places and had the time of our lives, just like feeling the energy and knowing we were going to live there, not living from a place of like, oh, I wish we could just live here right now. It was like, well, let's see if we can make any connections. And we didn't make any connections. So we had a few people we were talking to, but Mike didn't make any connections. And his biggest thing was, I feel like I need to have a job before I go there. And that's not always how the universe works. So, it's like, well, how about if we just had enough money and then we figured it out when we got there? And that's what we ended up doing, which is a very, very scary thing to do. It's very scary, but it's very expansive. It really wakes you up when you do stuff like that. Wakes you up. It wakes up your faith. It wakes up your strength and your courage. It brought us together even more as a team than if that's even possible. And then once we went through that winter, that was the winter I decided I needed to be as happy as I possibly could. And then when we got the letter from the bank, that's when we sat down and said, okay, like, this is serious. Like I said, I am not moving to another house in Connecticut. I will not. And that's when we made that big decision. And when I tell you, jobs came through, my husband was bidding jobs like so big, and he was getting them like that. And it was like the money just started pouring in, and then we were selling everything. So I was making money every day, and it was like this, it was a frenzy. It was crazy. We sold all of our stuff in like a month. It was nuts. And we booked those plane tickets, and that's how we did it.
This is absolutely amazing. Like now I know why, I've been looking forward to this so much. I mean, this is the first time we've really connected and had in-depth discussion, and I can see, like, you know, your warrior spirit is strong. I got to tell you, your kung fu is strong, Goldyn. You're a real warrior.
Yeah.
You're walking your path, and you're manifesting it. You're making it all happen, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to hear this.
Thank you. It's good to be on the other side of it now too, because we really are. I mean, we went through some major financial struggles when we didn't have money for the rent, and Mike was working for a guy who wasn't paying us enough. We partner with him now on huge projects, but you know, the beginning was bumpy. It was really bumpy, and there were moments that were very scary. I remember a really pivotal moment when I found. So we had $40 in our bank account. And I went to Trader Joe's and I bought shrimp and langostinos. And I remember thinking they were like $11. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy this and I'm going to feel good about it. It's my last $40, right? It's the last $40 I can see. But I know that I live in an abundant universe. And I walked out of Trader Joe's and I found $100 on the ground. And I looked up and I went home. And my husband looked at me and he said, "We have nothing to worry about." And I said, "I know, like that fell out of the sky. I know it did." And ever since then, it was just this, like, every day, sometimes we had to just live one day at a time, and money would come in that day. And it was like, yeah, we're fine. We're okay. It's okay. And we did everything we needed to do for our kids, and we did everything we needed to do to pay our bills. And now we're at a very different point where we're living abundantly. And I have to say that feels so much better. But I'm really thankful for all of the bumps in the road, because now I can work from compassion, and I can work from faith, and I can tell people it's going to work out. It's going to work out for you. I know it is, because it did for me. And we're all of the same energy. You know, we all share the same light. So good. And
okay, so there's going to be people that are watching this that are really going to be connecting with the dark time that you guys had in that transition over to California. They're going to be nodding their head going, "Wow, I'm really resonating with this. Last $40, you know, like a house going to be taken away from the bank, moving to California and not even really knowing what's waiting, but doing it anyway." Yeah. Having this strong, you know, belief to go that everything's going to be fine. You know, you and Mike really coming together and digging deep together. What can you say to the people that are in that position now, that feel like they're on this massive emotional roller coaster? You know, one minute they're believing that things are going okay, then they get into depression. Like, what can you say to these people, Goldyn?
Well, I will say the very first thing that came to me when you were asking that question was, you know, the house being taken away, us giving the house back. It's funny when people would ask us, like, "What are you going to do with your house?" And I would say, "We're going to give it back." They would just look at us like, "What? You're going to do what?" Because you're supposed to be ashamed of that. You know, you're supposed to be ashamed of the fact that you bought a house that was too expensive in an economy that was insane. You know, you're supposed to be ashamed of that. And it was one of the biggest blessings, because we were able to just cut ties. You know, we didn't have to sell the house. We were able to, and honestly, our credit has already restored itself. It's funny, you know, there's just this idea, everyone lives on this credit score that drives them insane, and it's just an illusion. Everything has been restored, but these things that happen to us are like blessings, and we can't see it when we're in the thick of it. But if you can just hold on and know that all things are for our good, all things come in for our greatest expansion, our greatest growth, and they're leading you to more. If we are complacent, you know, living a job, paying our bills, just getting by every day, we're not really living the French say the joie de vivre, you know, the joy of life. We're not really living, we're just kind of waiting, right, for something to happen. And it's in those moments of real desperation that our spirit is ignited. And desire is what pulls energy through the universe. So when we desire something, it's really part of us becoming who we really are. Our desires are who we are. So all the desires that you have and all the things that you're looking at right now, if you're in the darkness and you feel like there's no light, oh God, please meditate. Start a meditation practice. I am such a huge believer in meditation, peeling away the layers of all the things that you believe about yourself that are holding you back. I am a huge advocate of just meditation it will pull all those layers away. It will awaken you to who you really are, and it will create a journey of much more joy.
And Goldyn, how does that happen? Like, how does meditation peel away these layers and expose a person to like what's really in there?
Well, because we're listening to our minds all the time. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. And our mind is not us. And most people think that their thoughts in their mind are themselves, and our mind is not us. What is us is what's deeper and inside. And when you quiet the mind and you go within, you're going to find emotions and things that need to be healed. And as you're healing those things, you're awakening your true sense of who you are. When you awaken the true sense of who you are, you become that whole self, instead of bringing this fragmented self that's wounded, that has triggers, that is emotional, that's filled with fear. You're going to start to wake up to your strength. You're going to start to wake up to your worthiness and the wholeness of who you really are. When you bring your whole self to situations and you're fully present and fully mindful with situations, that's where you create. In quantum physics, they call it zero state awareness. And from zero state awareness, everything is created. That's like the beginning of creation. So when you quiet that mind, you're going to have inspirations. You're going to wake up that third eye, which is your inspired thinking. And you're going to start creating from a place of expression, which is what I believe our divinity. It's where we are connected to our divinity. So meditation is everything. Everything. It's the one thing that I will not work with someone if they do not commit to a meditation practice, because it's a waste of my time, because I cannot get into someone's inner being, into their inner self, without them opening the space with meditation.
What should be happening in meditation? What's a few simple steps that you can share with the audience for those who are thinking of meditating?
Yeah, so a lot of people think they know what meditation is and they think they can't do it. So the very first step would be believing that this is in you, that you are fully capable of quieting your mind. Our minds are so busy, and meditation is a mind practice and a mind training. So it takes a little while. I'm going to tell you though, after 3 to 7 days of practicing 20 minutes a day of just sitting and being quiet, focusing on your breathing, doing your best to just stop and create this blank space within your mind, 3 to 7 days, you're going to notice crazy things happening in your life, where it's like all of a sudden you're just not as bothered, and all of a sudden your day is going a lot easier, and things are flowing, and you're having inspired thoughts, and you're starting to feel creative. So it's a process. And I mean, some people will go through some emotional stuff in the beginning. We run meditation groups. So we've seen people go through some emotional stuff, because for the very first time, you're allowing yourself to feel emotion. You're allowing yourself to settle into that inner space that maybe you've been dumbing down with alcohol or drugs or TV, or, distracting yourself with work or whatever. So for the first time, you're going to be listening within. So sometimes people start to get emotional, and that's what our groups are about, being support for people that just start the practice.
And how important is this emotional state? I mean, I know with myself, the shift from me valuing the intellect to going to a more heart-centered being really changed my entire life, just in that shift.
Yeah.
I notice you're going into that area now. So how many people do you find are trapped within understanding something intellectually or living their life intellectually, which is really kind of just like scratching the surface, isn't it?
Yes. Well, what I will say about that, just to go a little bit deeper, when we have experiences, traumas, things that happen to us, we tend to kind of trap those inside of ourselves. When we do that, we set up a vibrational alignment with those things. So they say it's not what happens to you, right, that determines that point of attraction or that point of vibration. It's actually how you respond to it. Because if you have things that are triggering you and fear, anxiety, or you're getting upset or angry, you have something within you that needs to be healed. And meditation is what actually creates that healing work and allows you to release it. People have a hard time coming out of their head. There's no doubt about it. But as you begin to practice it, I believe there's an opening. You know, there's something that happens that people, because this is our natural state of being, this inner being, you will find it. You know, as you commit to a practice, you will find it. There's no doubt about it. And you will start to have those inspired thoughts that are really of you. One thing else that I've really noticed, my daughter just started meditating in one of my groups. She's 25, and I'm watching her expansion process, and I'm watching how she is starting to say no when she wants to say no. Because so often we say yes when we want to say no, which creates resentments and creates obligation, and it creates us not really living in our truest state of power. And as we meditate, we get really aligned with our truth and what's good for us. It's not a selfish way of living. It's actually a way of living from our fullness and our wholeness, where we're not giving so much that we're depleting our energy and creating less of a joyful life, or less of an inner connection. Did that answer your question? I hope
it did. It did.
Okay.
Yeah. Look,
okay, good.
People are kind of addicted to thought. They're like, you know, all of us. I mean, I know this was a reality and a truth for me for just about 95% of my life. Mm-hmm. Just addicted to thought, trapped within the distraction of thought going in every different direction, you know, being distracted by anything and everything, absolutely anything except, you know, the quietness and stillness within.
Yeah.
Anything but that. Yep. And it seems like we resist that to like the nth degree until finally we experience a little bit of that stillness, and it's like, wow, it's difficult to even put into words, but it's just this truth that it goes beyond communication or language. And it's so important, isn't it?
It's scary for people, you know, it's scary for people who have been doing it their whole lives to consider that. And it doesn't make sense to us, you know, for our whole lives, we've been taught that we have to work hard and we have to keep moving and we have to keep busy. And, you know, it's ingrained in our society, and social media is even making it more intense. It's like, talk about having thoughts. We don't just think our thoughts, we type them all over social media now, you know? But I will say what meditation does, when you start to get quiet within, what happens is you create a space, and you create a space between your thoughts and who you are. In that space is choice. And that's when we start to begin the process of choosing what we're thinking about and choosing what we want to believe. You know, what it is. We have so many belief systems in place, social programming, you know, belief systems from our parents, from our teachers, from traumas that happened to us when we were younger. And what meditation does is it gives you the space to start questioning those beliefs and start to choose the beliefs that you want, that are going to support the energy of what you want to create in your life. So that space is where it's all out. That space is where we begin to realize that we are not our thoughts, and that the whole thinking world and the illusion of living in this society where we have to survive and that we have to create these green pieces of paper that mean nothing. They mean nothing. They're numbers on a computer screen at this point. Most of the banks don't even have the money in the bank to pay us what we earn, right? So it's like we live in this illusionary state, in this world that we think is being created for us, when the reality is that we're doing all the creating. And we can either create by default, it's going to happen either way, or we can create deliberately. And that is what I am so passionate about teaching people, is deliberate creation. How do you want this to look? Because most people will tell you what's not going right in their lives, or what they don't want to happen. How often do we say, I don't want to get sick, or I don't want to get stuck in traffic? That is focusing on exactly what you don't want, and it's inviting it into your life. One of the new things that I just started was, instead of telling the kids, don't let me forget that, because my focus is on forgetting that, I say, please help me remember. It's a little shift, but it's huge. It's like, what am I focused on? Forgetting or remembering, right? So it's the language, it's the energy behind what we are intending.
So for people watching this now that can understand that they have the power to create their reality, but don't really believe that they personally can do it. So they're hearing you and they're accepting, yes, this makes sense. We do actually create a reality, but me personally, I could never do that. I'm in too much shit here. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, how do I know what I want my life to be, but I'm not going to be able to do this, even though other people can. What do we say to that type of person that's thinking that?
So we ran a prosperity group when we first came upon this knowledge and information. We got super passionate about it, and we just wanted to teach it to our friends. So we had a whole bunch of people come over in our living room. We had people crying in our living room because they had this full realization of, oh my God, I created all this crap. It's like, number one, you have to let go of victim mentality. You have to let go of, they are all doing this to me. He's making me mad, or the government is making me broke, or, this job is sucking the life out of me because I'm not making enough money. You have to let go of all that in order to create something new and fresh. So I'm going to tell you that I know without a shadow of a doubt that we are all connected to this energy, and that this works for every single person in the entire world, in the entire universe, that this is a universal law at play. And you can do it with small things to begin with if you want to start proving it to yourself. One book I highly recommend is E Squared by Pam Grout. It's 9 simple experiments you can do to prove the law of attraction works. I manifested $10,000 with one of her experiments, and she put it in her next book. It's just a little tiny paragraph about my experience, but it was phenomenal what happened. It was just the coolest thing ever to create this money. I needed money to pay off a car, and within 2 days I had it. $10,000. I mean, you can't make that up. So I would say to start with little things, to start proving to yourself that there actually is this energy. Start reading, start listening to things, start planting seeds within your mind that are going to grow to become knowledge and power and wisdom that you can create whatever it is you desire. Because I am living proof, and I've done this with a lot of people. I've showed a lot of people how to do this, so I know it's completely possible.
So this is becoming like your work now, like you are helping people to make this transition, to awaken them, embrace this, get their creative energies flowing to literally create a new life for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've actually been, I had a coaching business back in Connecticut that I was doing speaking, and I was doing seminars for different network marketing companies and stuff. And then when I moved to California, I had a really great client who was very open to whatever I wanted to do. And I started getting her in a meditative state, and I helped her to start releasing some of these like really old, these old energies that were trapped inside of her. I don't know very much about the chakras. Everything I know about the chakra system, we have the 7-point chakra system. Everything I know about the chakras has been brought to me intuitively. I've done a little bit of study on them, but all of a sudden I realized that I could clear them for people. And powerful, powerful work that I'm just floored that I was chosen to perform this with people, and to help them to gain higher perspective in their lives, to see that everything really is working out for their greatest good, and to focus them fully in the direction of what they want. That's all I really do. I ask questions, I get to their hearts to find out what they really want, what's really troubling them. And then, we come from a fresh space to be able to create that. And it is phenomenal work. It really is. And it's something that I get really excited about and blessed to share. I feel almost overwhelmed when people open their energy to me that way, because it's vulnerable. It's a really vulnerable place for people, and they trust me, and that feels like fulfillment to me.
And what are you finding is like a kind of pattern, or the most the same kind of thing that's holding people back? What are you seeing in your coaching work that is, the thing that's becoming more and more kind of obvious to you, within people? Is there a kind of common denominator that you're seeing that's holding people back?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Unworthiness. Unworthiness is an epidemic. It's an epidemic because most of us are not brought up in families who really see us for our true worthiness or know their own worthiness. So we're being parented and brought up in families where people are bringing their fragmented selves to us and parenting from that and making decisions for us and not allowing us to actually wake up to our own inner guidance. It's one thing that I'm super passionate about with my kids, is getting them in tune to their inner guidance. What do you think? What do you want? What do you want to create? Because if I'm instructing my clients or my children to my agenda, to my belief system, then I'm not really helping them to create from their power. I'm just having them create from my belief system, which is an awesome belief system, but it's not necessarily what resonates with their inner being. So getting people in tune to that inner guidance, I feel like, is the key to really igniting their passions and their power in the world. And I forgot your question.
That's okay. So you're kind of creating an environment for people to experience their own truth.
Yes.
Instead of following kind of
what you're saying. Yeah, I'm facilitating. I'm not necessarily leading. There's some guidance involved, which is very inspired, very divine. I feel very strongly that I have divine guidance that works through me very often, because I say things and I have words that come through me that a lot of times are not my words. I had a word come up the other day that was chutzpah, and I was like, I've never even heard that word. And this guy was like, oh, my family used to say that word all the time. So I know that it's not me, and when I come out of these sessions, I'm floating and I just feel incredible. So I know that there's divinity that's happening, and people are getting messages that they need to wake themselves up and to wake up their own, inner power. But worthiness is an epidemic, and it's something that I know I was brought on this earth to squelch, to help people to truly realize.
So the larger consciousness system is obviously working through you, because you've made the decision to create this for yourself, and now you're kind of got so in touch with what you really want in such an honest, transparent, and authentic way that the larger consciousness system, of course, has allowed you to create this for yourself, and bingo, you're living it.
Yeah, and it feels it's a little humbling, to be that channel for people. And like I said, I just give so much credit to people that are so strong and courageous to just go to these places that are dark and scary. But the cool thing is, like, what difference from what I do that most, conventional therapies do, is I don't necessarily bring people back to a situation to mull it over and to make them relive it. What I'm doing is I'm doing it from an intentional space that allows them to heal it, because what we're doing is we're moving through it. We're processing it. We're not, just looking at it and saying, oh, this happened to me. I've been in therapy and I've been stuck in super depressed times because they kind of left me there. And it was like, oh my God, this happened to me. And it was tragic, like I didn't want to remember those tragedies. But this type of healing work is about moving the energy through them so that they no longer resonate with it. They no longer vibrate with it. mean, I have had some crazy things happen where this one woman had dropped a quarter in between the seats of the car. And from that moment, she was 4 years old and she remembers this, and it was no big deal to her family, but she created this belief system that she wasted money, that she was a waster of money. And she was living that in her 30s from this 4-year-old belief system. So weird experiences pop up for people that were able to go, that's where that came from, and let's get rid of that and set new intentions that, you're a creator of all abundance. So it's interesting.
And this, for this particular woman, this realization just popped up through.
Yeah, I help people get like in a meditative state, and then I just ask them a few questions, and that will usually get me to the, it's really interesting because experiences will just come out of nowhere. And a lot of times people think it's really kind of weird, these things that pop up and they don't make sense to them, but then we put all the puzzle pieces together and it totally aligns with what's happening in their life right now. What they've been vibrationally resonating, you can see a cycle through their whole life. It's riveting. It really is. And transformative, completely.
And so are they putting this together like with you? Like
yes.
as they're
well,
going
I ask
through
questions. Yep, I ask questions. And then the release work, I just ask them to kind of, be quiet unless there's something that they need to tell me. And then I just let them do imagery work and release the energy through, through the top of their head, through their crown chakra. And you will feel energy. And that's the weirdest thing that I think I realized was that I can do this over the phone from thousands of miles away, and I can still feel what's going on in your body. And that's when I really realized that I had something powerful, was that I feel energy, I can move it. So why not help people move it?
And so your coaching sessions can be on the phone or in person?
They're always
or like
on the phone.
Always
over the phone. I never look at people because I want them fully relaxed. Most of the time people are closing their eyes and they don't need me staring at them. And also what I realized, when I started coaching, I used to meet people in person. And what I started to realize is that I would take on their energy and I would be exhausted. So it kind of keeps me out of their field by doing it over the phone. So that's been one of my secrets to success because I can do quite a few sessions in a day and it would totally deplete me if I was doing it in person.
And how can people that are watching this get in contact with you if they're interested in like doing a session with you?
I have a website, goldynduffy.com. It's Goldyn with a Y. And just, email me through my website. Yeah.
Okay, so people can see your name there on the screen. So it's Goldyn Duffy, just one word.com, is it?
Correct. Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, so they can check it out.
What else are you sort of doing on the website other than like the one-to-one coaching?
Well, I've got a couple things on my website. What I'm most excited about right now is our meditation groups because they're super affordable. So we charge $21 for 21 days and we're putting people up to a challenge of meditating every day. We are there in complete support. It's myself and my friend Jess, who lives about 40 minutes from me. We help people through their emotional stuff. We're seeing huge leaps and incredible evolution in people just taking on this practice. We're on our 4th group right now, and it gives people a way to work with me if they can't necessarily pull the funds together to do it right now. I do a couple of videos a week. I do emotional releasing on that. So it's been a way for me to hit a group of people really effectively and not have to do it, hour by hour, day by day, because I do have a family that I am super in love with and I like to be with them. So to keep my balance, this group stuff has really been helpful to still feel like I'm doing what I was brought on this earth to do, but also to do the other part of it that I love, take care of my beautiful family.
That's another thing that we both share in common.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both family people. Family is number one. It's kind of like our foundation that everything else is built on. How important is the interactions that you have with your children, with Mike, with your babies? How important is that?
It's expansion. It's full expansion. The people that are in our lives every single day are the ones that are creating with us triggering us, healing us. Our kids, number one, are here to heal us. They were brought into our lives so many times that I've looked at my kids and realized, wow, that is something that has happened to me as a kid. And that's why it's triggering the crap out of me. And that's why whenever they get me upset, I always get me upset whenever, I catch myself because they don't get me upset. Whenever I get upset by what they're doing, I have to ask myself and become super reflective on what is that in me that needs to be healed. And they're all my teachers. Every single one of them are my teachers. And they're my joy. I am totally adore every single one of them. And there's moments, yes, I have teenagers when I don't really like them. And sometimes I just want to jump off the side of the cliff. But the reality is they, we were all they were put in my field for very special reasons. And everyone in your family is there for that, to help you to heal and to help you to realize who you really are. Being a mom, God, it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do in my whole life was to be a mom, and being able to be facilitating their growth it's one of the best gifts ever. And my husband, my marriage, gosh, I'm just incredibly blessed to be married to my soulmate and to grow with him and to live this life of joy where we just empower each other. That's what it is, being in a family. If you can empower each other, you've got everything. Absolutely.
Those interactions every day, hundreds of times a day, all those little decisions to either make a love-based choice or a fear-based choice with each family member. This is really the university. This is the learning ground, that what you learn and the experience that you gain in those interactions at home with your family is probably what's allowing you to really connect with people and allowing this amazing transformation that you're facilitating within them. I'm getting that from you, and I know it's so true with my own life and with my family. It seems to be such an integral, important part of this process, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've always just wanted to be the best at it. So I think that it's what led me to this journey of really looking inside other people and helping them to heal. Because, just like in our meditation group, I always say, we're starting a revolution. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking to you too, because it's we are literally starting a revolution, and we are waking people's asses up. We are literally just taking off the veil from this total programming that we have bought into that is no longer true. And we no longer have to live from this place of powerlessness. So I know that, working and being in all these relationships is part of what has made me the facilitator that I am today. And I don't always do it perfectly, for sure. But I'm always out there working it, inside and outside. I am always working it, and I'm always working to become the absolute best mother I can be, and the best friend I can be, and the best healer I can be, because I know that we're being put, and I know this is true for you too, we're being put in these positions to lead and to facilitate real, true growth for people. And it's awesome. It's an awesome responsibility.
It is, isn't it? I was actually having a conversation with somebody last night about exactly this, and that is the bar that we're setting. On this is the level. This is where it needs to be in as far as honesty, transparency, authenticity, the way that we share ourselves with everyone, what's expected in that interaction with other people, that it's so okay to just be yourself. And if you make mistakes, bring it, man. This is what empowers us, instead of trying to hide that side of us and only show ourselves in the limelight of victory. It's kind of it's so old and fake. That the real power of today, the real thing is just being yourself and being empowered by that freedom of no longer having to act, pretend, blah, 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 blah. So totally hearing what you're saying. Yeah,
the authenticity is huge right now, and it's what people are hungry for is authenticity, because you know, we have lived in a world where we've been sold so many things that are so untrue. And, you know, a lot of these coaches out there and a lot of these speakers out there that put us in positions that make us feel like we are, you know, nothing without their programs, that drives me insane. It's like, I don't want people to hire me so that I can make them feel like they have to rely on me in order to live their lives better. I want them to hire me so I can ignite that fire within them, and then they can go. You know, like, I'm not here to just have people hire me and work with me forever so that I can be their cheerleader. Like, I am here to ignite the fire within. And authenticity is everything, because it's teaching from our compassion and from our wounds and from our own traumas, and literally handing people the torch of faith, you know, and just having them run with it and saying, like, let's build this together. Let's create this faith together, because I've been through it and I know where you're at. And I know that all the things we go through are for that reason, so that we can shine that light for other people. I know that.
So it's kind of like you are facilitating an environment for people to kind of like use the space you create for them as a springboard to then go off into their own air, into their own flight, into their own limitless sky, and go and do their thing.
Absolutely. That's why I teach meditation. That's why I teach these techniques of release, because I want people to be equipped to do this, because we are all connected to the same energy. So no one is better than anyone else. We're all just at different places in our path, you know? I wanted to say something about up-leveling, because you mentioned the word up-leveling. It's one of my favorite words. So a while ago, we were renting a home, and we had rented this home, and it was kind of strained from the outset. We had lived in an apartment, and we really wanted to live in a house. And I remember this woman giving us a really hard time because our credit scores were, you know, not fantastic. We've built them since then, but she was taking a chance on us, and she took advantage of us big time. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, this is not who we are, you know? I am not going to be treated this way anymore, because I know who we are. And I remember living in that home, and I remember feeling like I didn't belong there anymore. But, you know, moving is a lot, and it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of stress on my husband. And so we had these discussions, and he wasn't excited about moving, but he understood, because when I get set on something, like, my desire just drags us all along, you know? And so I started looking at homes, and it was, woof, man, it was a challenge. And I remember feeling anxiety in my physical body, and almost like looking above, like being able to see my body from above and going, that's not who I am. Like, I'm not fearful. I'm not anxious. I know this is going to work out. So we find this amazing house, and it's about it's a tiny bit over the price range that we wanted to be in. And we were in the old house, we were actually having a little bit of trouble paying the rent sometimes. So then you look at this new situation and you go, so now we're going to be paying more money, right? So we have to up level. We have to up level into this new home that is going to just bring us so much joy. And ever since we moved into this home, which I am so in love with, my husband, every day we're both like, I love this house. We have this incredible view of the city. I mean, it's just a beautiful home. It's like, it's the place that I knew I belonged. When I walked in, I got the chills. Like, I knew I belonged here. We have never once had trouble paying the rent. It's been so interesting. So when you create that up level and that belief in your life, and you know that you belong somewhere, again, the universe rises to meet you, and opportunities will be there to support your decision. So I just want to share that. That was a recent realization, like, wow. Up leveling is cool. You've
really come full circle, Goldyn. Like, I can only imagine, you know, like the valleys and peaks that you and Mike and the kids went through, you know, in that darkest hour, in that toughest time. What was it deep down more than anything that drove you on during what you can remember were the darkest moments? You know, those moments where you're kind of like sitting at the edge of the bed at night by yourself, you just feel like you're going to burst out crying. Like,
oh, sure.
In those moments there, like, what was it that you connected with inside yourself to drive you and go, no, we're going to get out of this. It's all going to turn.
Well, the interesting thing about our marriage is that one of us is always in that faithful, strong place. So that one person can shake the other one up and wake them up to, it's going to be okay. And that happened a lot. Mike was definitely a rock for me, and I would be a rock for him if it was needed. I worked with an energy healer the whole time. I have a woman out of New York who I work with every 2 weeks. And even when money was tight and she would have to give me a deal to keep me working with her, I found it necessary to keep myself in that energy and to remember. She just kept reminding me of who I am and the power that I had to create. The moments, moving through moments, I listen to things constantly. That's why I've listened to every one of your podcasts. I am a listener of things. Like when I'm putting my makeup on, when I'm washing the dishes, when I'm, just doing these mundane tasks at home, I am always filling my mind with something. Audible is like one of my favorite things. I listen to books all the time that are going to uplift and inspire me. Wayne Dyer, I don't know if you know him. He passed away. I feel like him and I have some kind of spiritual connection, but I listened to his book for months. I would just listen and listen and listen because he would calm me and he would make me feel centered again. And then we'd have all these little miracles along the way that inspired us and kept us confident. There was one book from Francis Scovel Shinn. It's called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And that was like literally like my Bible. I would just read that night. Every night she has like these affirmations, and I would just continue to plant those seeds and to literally change my neural pathways from the fear and anxiety that I was used to, because back in 2008, when we went through all that financial struggle, that stuff was right there. It was raw and it was real, and I had not healed from it. It was still a trauma. For months after Mike finding work and us doing okay here, I would still have fear using my debit card because I never knew when it was going to be rejected. And then I would do stupid things, like I would pull the wrong card and it would get rejected because that was my belief that it was going to get rejected. So it took some healing to be able to use my debit card cleanly and not feel like I was going to, be humiliated in front of people, which was a big thing. So listening, reading, just keeping myself in the truth. Meditating. All along I meditated and just bringing myself to that calm place and knowing that the fear and anxiety that was living within me wasn't necessarily me. That's been pretty new realization probably within the last year. I've realized that, we can still have these, because we have all these neural pathways and we have all these things that have been habits for us for so long, our physical body can still, our heart can still race. We can still feel the anxiety, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily are that we are that fear and anxiety. I can look now at the fear and anxiety and say, that's not who I am. That's not what I believe. And then eventually that fear and anxiety will subside. That's how you know you've healed from something, when it no longer upsets you or makes you feel fearful.
So you still feel it, but it's not like overwhelming.
It takes a little while for it to get out of your system, to get out of that energy field, because things do get trapped in our energy field, especially if we haven't meditated, especially if we haven't focused on releasing it.
So it's important to stay consistent with meditation, like keep it in our lives, because that will kind of like keep us grounded through, irrespective of good or bad experiences that we go through, as long as we've got that.
Yes, and working with the emotions within the meditation. So it's, again, it's sitting, it's being, and it's asking yourself, what are these emotions connected to? And why am I feeling them? And how can I process and release them? It's calling on that divine energy to help you to process the things that need to be released from you so that you can start creating from a fresher space. It's not just sitting there being. Sometimes it's about emotions and working with your emotions, because, emotions are your window. They're your window into what needs to be healed, and they're all good. People think that sadness is bad. They think that anger is bad. It's all energy running through us that is necessary. The balancing of emotions is so important. And we grew up, being told don't cry and don't be upset. So we have this social programming that emotions like that are not good. And, we never know happiness if we didn't know sadness. We would never know true health if we didn't know some sickness. It's all that contrast that makes us who we are.
It's fascinating connecting with you, hearing your story, what you've been through, where you are now. You've really embraced the inner hustle. The spiritual journey has really produced an external result, a business type of result. Mm-hmm. And you have united these two spheres of spirituality and earning a living in such a natural way. I mean, you discuss it in such a natural, authentic kind of way. You don't have any problems or confusions with it. You don't have any hang-ups with money, and that's what I love about you the most, Goldyn. Like, you're absolutely inspiring as hell when it comes to that.
Thank you. I've done a lot of work for sure. Yeah. As far as people's passions and learning and trying to figure out, who you are and what you're supposed to do. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to, be an energy healer or teach people about this stuff. I will say though, when I was little, I loved to pretend to be a teacher. And so now that's what I love to do. I love to teach people. And so it's getting back to your roots, what really inspires you and what really lights you up. And, half the time I wake up in the morning and my hair is on fire. Like, I'm just excited to talk about this stuff. So what does it? What really lights you up? Because that is what you were born to do. And that is where your abundance lies. If you, and I get it, we have to pay bills. I totally get it. I'm fortunate that my husband brings home a beautiful amount of abundance, and he is doing what he loves and he's passionate about. But for people to make that transition, it's, I'm not going to say it's not challenging, because it is challenging, because number one, you have to get rid of unworthiness, because if you're going to go into a spiritual business and you're going to create a business around yourself, a business where you literally have to sell yourself and sell your talents and your skills, you have to believe that you're worth it. You have to believe that you're worthy of a certain amount of abundance, that what you want to create in your life is possible and it's filled with your own potential. And if you have issues believing in yourself, then it will be really challenging. So the inner work, I think, is probably the most important thing in readying yourself for any kind of spiritual business or any kind of following of your passions and getting paid what you truly deserve.
So for all those spiritual people that are watching this, who absolutely adore their spiritual path, that live it, that feel so free, that understand the whole world and themselves when they're walking that path, but then in the morning, the alarm clock goes off. They're in peak hour traffic. They turn up to work. The boss is a complete asshole. They hate the space that they're in, and they're just dying in that space. And then it's almost like they're living this schizophrenic existence where they hate it, then they get out of it, and they're in love with life. Then they hate life. Then they,
Yeah.
What can you say to these people? It seems like you have really hit a home run when it comes to, joining the inner hustle and the outer hustle. Like, what can you share with these guys to help them, believe that they can earn a living walking their spiritual path the same way that you are, Goldyn?
Well, first of all, if you remember my story about Connecticut, you have to be happy where you are, first of all. That's number one. As you get up every day and do the things that you need to do, I have people write lists of positive aspects of their job if they really hate their job. It's like you've got to find everything you love about this job in order to shift it and transform it into something that aligns with who you want to be, what you want to create. Because if you're living 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day in this low-level misery, low vibrational state, you cannot create a life that is filled with higher vibrational joy. So that's split energy. We call that split energy because you're living an existence that is not in alignment with what you truly want to create. You can't create that way. Your energy is being split. Create that spiritual journey, that spiritual success, create that business. You have to get in full alignment with what you're doing right now, and you have to come to it with the highest appreciation possible. And it's just like paying bills. It's the same thing. It's like come to your bills with appreciation and love for what it's giving you instead of feeling like it's taking all your money. It's a shift in perspective. What can I love about this job right now? Who can I love? Who can I bring my whole self to every day? Where I am not only living the spiritual life when I'm feeling spiritual and happy, but I'm living the spiritual life in front of everyone that I'm in front of right now. And that is mindfulness. When you bring your whole self to each situation and you're not thinking about that job in dread, in worry about the future, in regret about the past, but you're bringing your whole self to every meeting, to every phone discussion, to every road that you drive on. When you're bringing that joy, when you're bringing that love of life, look up, look around you, look at the trees, look at the birds, look at the sky, look up and see that we have this energetic world all around us that has the capacity for joy in every single moment. That is living life, no matter what you're doing all day long. I do tons of laundry and wash dishes, and I am singing throughout it all because I am so blessed to take care of my family. And I am so blessed to live a life that feels so good to me that why would I let laundry or dirty house get me upset when I can just clean it and just feel happy about that? There's lots of things that could bring all of us down, but it's the energy that we bring to it that is going to manifest what you want. So if you want to manifest a fantastic life that is, reaped with your passions, then you have to get passionate about what you're doing right now. You have to bring that passion with you to everything you're doing because we're lining up with it.
You rock, sister. You really do.
Thank you.
What's a final message that you can leave to everyone that's listening and that's going to be watching this in the coming days, weeks, and months?
Okay.
Until I get you back on the show again, because you are going to be a regular.
Right, yes. I love it. I would love that. So, final message. God. We got to wake up, you guys. We are so powerful. We are powerful beyond measure to create energy from nothing. We have the power to fulfill every one of our desires. Do you know that the mere fact that we have a desire means that we have what it takes to fulfill it? The reason why we have a desire is because we have the means to fulfill it. We wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't possible to fulfill it. That always gets me excited because it means that all of my desires are valid and possible. So the potential that we all have to create this incredible life and leave behind the misery and the survival and just the energy connection to social programming and to believing that we don't matter. God, I am so passionate about waking people up to that we all matter, that we are all connected to this divine energy that wants to be expressed through our creations. There is this push of energy that's happening all the time. And the only reason why we're not in touch with it and we don't feel connected to it is because we're not focused on it. So once you get focused on that divine energy and believe in the possibility of creating things from nothing, you will see massive changes in your life. And releasing and letting go of all of those neural pathways, all of those mind thoughts and patterns that create self-sabotage or create that energy that makes you beat yourself up, just lose it. You got to lose it. You got to let go of the beating yourself up and the guilt and the shame and all the things that have created your life up until now, and make the decision that you're powerful and make the decision that you're going to live life in joy no matter what is going on around you, because that's what shifts the energy. No matter what trauma or tragedy is in front of you, your attitude will create everything around you. So if you believe that everything is working out for you, you will start to see evidence of it very quickly. I think that's good.
Goldyn Duffy, absolutely amazing. Man, I have enjoyed this so much. I want to thank you for making the time to share yourself with all of us on this live cast. And Goldyn, I'm so looking forward to having you back on the show as a regular, because I can see that you're going to bring massive value to a hell of a lot of people in so many countries. You know, this is only beginning for you. You're going to be one of the, you're going to make a huge impact. And I'm
right back at you, Michael. Right back at you, for sure. Thank you so much,
Goldyn.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, that was absolutely amazing. Now, for all of you guys out there who are struggling with business or struggling, you know, in your job, have got your spiritual path and your beliefs, like, you know, watch this again and again and again. You know, Goldyn has shared a story that is literally a story that millions of people can connect with. Walk that path. You know, if you're going to be inspired by Goldyn's story, because it's real, it's happened, she's living it, she's living proof, and you'll see her on the show again. So until next time, folks, keep your head up and keep your heart strong. Bye for now.
Thanks.